الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا ونبينا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وعلى أهل بيته الأطيبين الأنجبين بهم نتولى ومن أعدائهم نتبرأ إلى الله. اللهم كن لوليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. Well, it is the night of the birth of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam, and we ask the Imam to help us come closer to him and get closer to the akhlaq, the ethics of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam. And on a night like tonight, the du'as also that you have, if you look into them, see the meanings of these du'as, that how beautiful they are in getting us closer to Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala. Rasulullah says that Husaynun minni wa ana min Hussein, that Hussein is from me and I am from Hussein. So applies to everything. All the akhlaq that Rasulullah has, Abu Abdullah al-Hussein also carries. The beauty that he has, he also carries. In fact, it is by the presence of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein that Rasulullah has remained. So that adab, that akhlaq of Rasulullah was in him, and that we are studying and trying to understand. So where do we start from? And we have some kind of a knowledge regarding ethics and the results that ethics has in our life, the motives, and other branches and fields, more or less somewhat of an understanding we have. Now is the time to begin the process of self-purification, and with this information and general awareness, or in other words, let's move to the objectives or the issues that are required in this purification. Then we need to understand a little bit of the background of this knowledge, of this science, or the ilm that we have. And it is that it is necessary for this journey ahead. Some preparations are required, and we must know that there are three perspectives on how to deal with ethical issues. There is a notion or an opinion which says that is a teacher, a mentor, necessary in every stage, and then the role of the inner preacher or the outer preacher, the wa'iz within ourselves, and the wa'iz from the outer, that is the voice of conscience that we have within ourselves, and someone who can preach and teach us from outside, is that also required? And things that can help us achieve this great goal, such as the remembrance of Allah, worship, prayers, ziyarat, and constant advice, all that is required here. And a pure and a safe environment, that is one of the other requirements we need. Now basically, the book that is I've chosen for this semester, it's the book Akhlaq in Quran, written by Marhum Ayatullah Allama Misbah Yazdi. I don't know whether you have it in English or not. I'm doing it from the Farsi Arabic version written by him. So there are three perspectives on the ethical issues. The first view is the self-purification of a kind of jihad. Now this view says self-purification is a kind of jihad and struggle against the internal enemies that we have, the internal enemies that are hiding within ourselves. Now there is a hadith which is known as Hadith Jundul Aqli wal Jahl. Jund means the soldiers, Aql means the intellect, jahl means ignorance. So the hadith, it talks about the forces, the soldiers of aql and the soldiers, the forces of jahl. So both of them, they have equal and opposite reactions. So Allah gave 70 associates to aql. Jahl objected, says, why nothing to me? So Allah gave ilm here, jahl on the other side. Gave strength here, cowardice on the other side. Gave generosity here, bukhl, and being tight-fisted on the other side. So every positive quality was given to aql, and every negative trait also was given to jahl. So equally that distribution was there. And now this jihad akbar, or the major fight, major jihad or major striving that we have, it is fighting the inner forces that are there, and that is the toughest of jihads, the toughest of battles. And in one of the ahadith al-Qudsiyya, Rasulullah, he says, وَالشَّيْطَانِ الَّذِي يَجْرِي فِي عُرُوقِهِمْ, shaitan who is flowing within themselves, like blood flows within ourselves, shaitan is also within ourselves. And fighting someone who is so close to us, within us, and with all forces is there, it's not an easy task. That is why it is called Jihad Akbar. Now, when Rasulullah, in that famous hadith, you must have heard, when he was returning from the battle, and then he says, addressing the ashab, marhaban biqawmin qadhu al-jihad al-asghar wa baqiya alayhim al-jihad al-akbar, that greetings to this nation, to this group who have passed the minor or the smaller jihad, and now they have to embark on a major jihad. Someone present in that group, he said that Jihad al-Akbar, we are returning from a battle, we've fought, we've been killed, we've been wounded, so many people have been killed and died. So that was the major. Is there something greater than that as well? Rasulullah says that was a simple one, that was an easy one. You knew the enemy in front of you, you could see him, you could fight him. But then there is another jihad, you don't see the enemy, and is in the hiding, and fighting that enemy is the toughest task. قال صلى الله عليه وآله جهاد النفس, that is the major battle or major jihad. Elsewhere, ثم قال أفضل الجهاد من جاهد نفسه التي بين جنبيه, that is the best of the jihad is that one fights that nafs, that soul which is within himself, that is that greatest of fights and battles. Now some of the verses on jihad have been interpreted as jihad with one's soul, verses of Quran. It isn't always as such that jihad means a battle, a combat where you fight with your enemy. In some of these ayat, jihad has been applied to the fight with the inner soul. Like for example, man jahada fa innama yujahid li nafsih, inna Allah la ghaniyyun 'anil 'alamin. Whosoever strives only for his own sake. Indeed, Allah has no need of the creatures. Or for example, another ayah states that man kana yarju liqa Allah fa inna ajal Allah la'atin wa huwa as-sami'un alim. Whoever expects to encounter Allah's appointed time will indeed come, and He is the all-hearing, the all-knowing. So again over here to the Jihad Akbar it has been applied. وَالَّذِينَ جَاهَدُوا فِينَا لَنَهْدِيَنَّهُمْ سُبُلَنَا وَإِنَّ اللَّهَ لَمَعَ الْمُحْسِنِينَ. And as for those who strive for us, then we shall surely guide them in our ways, and Allah is indeed with the virtuous. So loads of ayat are there that have been mentioned and that emphasize on jihad akbar, which is the fight with the soul, or the jihad and the striving with the soul. Jahidu fillah haqqa jihadeh huwa ijtabakum wa ma ja'ala alaykum fid din min haraj. Another ayah. And then the reporter, he says that, Abu Zar is the reporter, he says that I asked Rasulullah, Qultu ya Rasulullah, ayyul jihad afdal, which is the better jihad? An yujahid al-rajul nafsah wa hawah. Rasulullah replies that a man, that a person, he fights his own soul and all the charms and the desires that the soul has. That is that major jihad. So it is important that we fight. There are all these desires every now and then, and they need to be addressed. So that is the jihad akbar. The second opinion, it's the view of the spiritual medication. In this view, the human soul, like the human body, is afflicted with all kinds of diseases, and in order to recover and to be healthy, it is necessary to resort or to spiritual physician. We need a help from them, and that spiritual Messiah, and he uses spiritual techniques that exist for each of the moral diseases to regain that spiritual help. Now in the 10th, this opinion also, they have ayat from Quran. For example, from Surah Baqarah says, في قلوبهم مرض فزادهم الله مرضا ولهم عذاب أليم بما كانوا يكذبون. There is a sickness in their hearts, and then Allah increased their sickness, and there is a painful punishment for them because of the lies they used to tell. So there is a disease, and that disease needs to be addressed. So in the 33rd ayah of Surah Al-Ahzab, he introduces lustful people as people with hearts that are diseased and who lurk in the ambush, lurking the chaste women. Ya Nisa an-Nabi, lastunna ka'ahadim min an-Nisa, O wives of the Prophet, you are not like all other wives, all other women. إن اتقيتن فلا تخضعن بالقول فيطمع الذي في قلبه مرض وقلن قولا معروفا. If you are wary of God, of Allah, do not be complacent in your speech, lest he whose heart there is sickness and disease should aspire to speak honorably and dignified. So over here also that disease in the heart has been mentioned. Or in another meaningful interpretation, he introduces the hearts are the center of light, of knowledge, morality and piety, as a healthy heart. According to Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam says, وَلَا تُخْزِنِي يَوْمَ يُبْعَثُونَ, that Allah do not disgrace me on the day of judgment. Yawma yub'athun, when on the day we will be resurrected, they will be resurrected. Yawma la yanfa'u malun wala banun, the day when neither wealth nor children they will not avail. Illa man ata Allah biqalbin salim, but that someone comes to God with a sincere heart. So a heart is required which is disease free, which doesn't have any contamination. So what is that heart? Now for example, in many of the ayat, salim means, it's from salama, and it is the opposite of fasad or corruption. A heart that is sound, that is salim, that is sincere, which is not corrupt, is required. A heart empty from everything that is not divine, that is not godly. A heart free from every ethical and moral disease. So, in Quran, another ayah regarding Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam says, Inna min shi'atihi la Ibrahim, indeed Ibrahim was among his followers. was among his followers. When he came to his Lord with a sound heart, with a qalbin salim, with a sincere heart. So what is this heart which is salim, which is free from any fasad and corruption? With reference to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his seerah was such that he used to go to people to get them cured. He was after these hearts that needed help. He always was on the go. It wasn't such that Rasulullah, he sat in one place and people, they came to him to get their prescriptions, their shafa. Yeah, those who were near and close to Rasulullah, those who knew him, they came. But most of the people did not know him. He went after them. For that, Amirul Mu'mineen says that Rasulullah, he was tabibun dawarun bitibbih. Tabibun dawarun means a physician, a doctor on the go, on the wheels, all the time. Qad ahkama marahimahu, who has his medication always prepared and ready. His ointments, his tools, his emergency kits, his for burning wounds, whatever he needed, everything was always ready. And he had a cure, a treatment for everyone, so that he could treat those blind hearts, ears that were dead and deaf, meaning that could not perceive the message of haqq and truth. Rasulullah was always on the go to cure such people, deaf and dumb, benefit from them, wandering in search of those who are in need. So that's why Amir al-Mu'minin says, Tabibun Dawarun bitibbih. So the second opinion says that the qalb salim, the heart needs to be addressed, because there are hearts that are polluted, are corrupt, are in need of help, because everyone has to go towards God, and with a qalb salim, with a sincere and a sound heart. Now Rasulullah was inquired, Mal qalbus salim, what is a sound heart? In reply he says, Deenun bila shakkin wa hawa, that is a heart which accepts and acknowledges the religion, a heart which doesn't have any doubts in it, which doesn't have any lusts and desires and temptations in it. Then he says, Qalbun salim, a sound heart, is a heart amalun bila sum'atin wariya. In addition to that heart that has to be filled with aqidah, and also shouldn't have any doubts and no lusts and temptations, says a heart which doesn't have any sum'ah and riya, that is, doesn't show off. It is not to show off and to show to people. So that is regarding the qalb salim, different ayat and riwayat that we have. Or for example, Imam Baqir alayhi salam, he says that La ilma ka talab salamati wa la salamata ka salamati al-qalb. Says there is no ilm, but that you seek salama, you seek well-being, you seek to be sound and good. Wala salamata ka salamati al-qalb. And there is no well-being like the well-being of the heart. So the focus is towards the heart, and that heart needs to be corrected. It has to be cleansed from every pollution and corruption. Now this sincere heart also, it's a God-given blessing. Not everyone has it. In another quote, Amir al-Mu'mineen says, وَإِذَا أَحَبَّ اللَّهُ خَيْرًا, if Allah loves the good for someone, رَزَقَهُ qalban salima, Allah gives him a sound heart, a qalb salim, wa khulqan qawima, and He gives him a good character, a good akhlaq, manners, a moderate akhlaq. Now sometimes people, they are in extremes in akhlaq and ethics, too much towards one side, too much towards the other side. No. Akhlaq which is good, it has to be moderate. That is not in extremes. Where you need to laugh, you laugh. Where you need to not laugh, you don't laugh. When you need to cry, you cry. Where you need to be reserved, you be reserved. Not laughing and flattering and giggling all the time. No, everything within itself, within the rights and parameters. So a moderate akhlaq. Now, in a hadith from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam regarding these diseases of the hearts, he says, "Iyyakum wal mira wal khusuma." That is, upon you be to be away from all these disputes and quarrels and fights. فَإِنَّهُمَا يَمْرِضَانِ الْقُلُوبَ عَلَى الْإِخْوَانِ. They definitely, they make the hearts sick and ill towards the brothers. وَيَنْبِتُ عَلَيْهِمَا النِّفَاقِ. As a result of that, hypocrisy also will grow in them. So heart has to be away from disputes. If there are quarrels and disputes, just walk away. Don't be part of it. If there are so much of nuisance and nonsense being said and heard over the phone or in the meeting where you are, and just walk away. Don't be part of it. Many a times people say that if we don't know what we should do, it's good not to know most of the time. Many of these silly things, these silly gossips and rumors that we have, if we don't know, it's better. The moment you know them, then the mind also starts ticking and talking, and all this nonsense, just that desire and the charm towards that nonsense and gossip also, it increases. So better not to know. If there's something happening, just walk away. Here Rasulullah says, "Iyyakum wal mira wal khusuma." There's all these quarrels and fights and khusuma, that keep away from them. Because as a result of that, the heart will be corrupted, and that qalb salim, that sound and sincere heart that is required, that will not be there. In addition, that hypocrisy also will be stemmed. ما من شيء أفسد للقلب من خطيئته. Says nothing corrupts and pollutes a heart more than sins. So sins have to be avoided at all times. Especially this is the season, month of Sha'ban, going towards the month of Ramadan. We can take these things on board easily because it is a special month with all these extra vaccinations from Rasulullah in the atmosphere. They are present. His special favors are there. You would find it easier to observe the fasts and worships and du'as, recitals and azkar in this month compared to other months, because this month belongs to Rasulullah. And he wants everything to be clear, to be clean, to be chaste, to be salim, to be fasad free, to be corruption free. So here in this month when we start and we ask him, he helps as well. Now, when it comes to these problems that we have, for example, these faqr and bala and faqa and poverty, difficulties that we are facing, Amirul Mu'mineen alayhi salam says, "Ala wa min al-bala al-faqa." From among the trials that are with us is faqa. Faqa means poverty. وَأَشَدُّ مِنَ الْفَاقَ مَرَضُ الْبَدَنِ. And more severe than that poverty is illness, sickness with the body. وَأَشَدُّ مِنْ مَرَضِ الْبَدَنِ مَرَضُ الْقَلْبِ. Says worse than all these diseases we may be having in our human body, says the worst of all the diseases, it's this disease with the heart. Not cardiac, no. Disease with the heart means the problems in the soul, the diseases or the forces that are negative and from the Jundul Jahl, the soldiers of ignorance which are within us, they being in us means that heart is polluted. Now in Quran, sometimes you have the term qalb and sadr and sudur and nafs, and all of that has been mentioned in various ayat. Now that, the translation of that for now, we can take it as the core, the essence, the soul, the existence of man. So we have an existence which is the moral or the spiritual existence. We have an existence which is material, the human body. So for the human body there is the heart which pumps blood to the body. For that existence which is spiritual and moral, that too has a heart, and that is with the center point which rules or which fights the forces that are in there. So that has to be under the control and under severe surveillance of ourselves. And if someone was successful in getting hold of the heart and controlling it, he is successful. That is why it's called Jihad Akbar. And many a times, some of these negative qualities that are in us, it takes a long time to get rid of them, maybe 20 years, sometimes 30 years, or maybe to adopt or to take on board something positive from among the mustahabbat. That is also not instant. It takes time. Like every other task, like every other job that you do, you need practice, and by experience you master something. In this field of spirituality also, it's the same thing. By practice, slowly. Maybe someone is hit with the anger issues, always angry. Someone is hit with some other kind of a disease like gossip, like backbiting or lying, etc., God forbid. So these things need to be removed from us. Or for example, maybe there is this sifat of rida lacking in us. We are not content, never happy. Or for example, tawakkul and relying upon Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala, that is important, that is required. Maybe we don't, we rely on every other person. So everyone knows what the flaws are in ourselves and what needs to be corrected, what needs to be addressed. So Imam says that the heart which is salim, we need to work on it. Now there are many riwayat regarding this issue, and that prevention is prevention and cure that has to be looked into. That what are the things that we need to prevent, and what is the cure that we need to take on board. Now the third opinion in this akhlaq. Now generally we will be taking this third one, and that is, in this view, human beings, they are like travelers moving from point to point. That point of, we are moving from a point of non-existence and moving towards a point, towards meeting God, that is liqa'ullah. Now, which is going to a destination which is infinite, which is eternal, which is permanent, and which is perfect in every respect, in every aspect. And in this spiritual journey, like physical journeys, a guide and a path, a ride, provisions, baggage, and removal of all the obstacles, and confronting the enemies or thieves and thugs on the path, that will also be required. So it's not going to be a safe journey. All of these issues will be there. Help will also be required. Provisions will also be needed. A mentor should also be there. The path also should be clear. And the path also should be the right one. Because in this day and age that we are in, with all these different paths and all these different methods that have been brought forth, we have to pick the right one. Many a times you would see that there are people who are guiding to the right path, but in reality they are reflections of Iblis in the form of a noble person. So in this spiritual journey, we need all that help. And this spiritual journey has stations, it has heights, it is dangerous at times. And this danger also must be crossed with the help of knowledgeable, sincere guides. And one after the other, these transits are passed until we reach our destination. So one of the things that is extremely important in this field, and it was mentioned earlier, is that a mentor, a guide is always required. Just like you, for your physical health, for the health of your body, you have a GP, you have a doctor, and every little flaw, every little pain, every little change in me, I approach him, I tell him, I notify him, and he also constantly, or she, is giving us the guidance as to how this well-being can be regained and how we can continue having a healthy life. The same thing applies in this field of irfan and akhlaq and adab and ethics and manners. You need someone. You have to have someone. Just pick up the phone, call them, speak to them, get help from them. Someone who is sincere, who can answer you, who you can trust. Not that you give him some information and then the next moment it's out in public. No, confidentiality has to be observed. And with that confidence, you ask and you get help. That is extremely important. Rasulullah, Amir al-Mu'mineen, he comes and he listens to Rasulullah, his advice, although he is a ma'asum. Ma'asumeen, all of them, they were like that. Maraja' taqleed, they are like that. All these majalis that are held, they say that we need help, we need to listen. That is that right of the ear that needs to be addressed. That is that advice has to be given to the ear. The heart also has to perceive. Ayatollah Khamenei, in the recent lectures, he also emphasized and pointed at this point that he says that I used to listen to Marhum Ayatollah Misbah's lectures every Thursday. So that is that person, first person of a state, he listens to Durus Akhlaq of Marhum Ayatollah Misbah. Because that is a requirement that is needed for the heart, for the ear, for the spiritual uplift. And if we distance from them, a point will come, then everything becomes non-mahram, alien. And then again, reconnecting with that becomes difficult. So for that reason, we have to have a mentor who constantly guides us. Now this third opinion states that الَّذِينَ إِذَا أَصَابَتْهُمْ مُصِيبَةٌ قَالُوا إِنَّا لِلَّهِ وَإِنَّا إِلَيْهِ رَاجِعُونَ. That is, whenever a mishap, whenever a worrisome situation unfolds, a bala lands upon us, they say, Inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un. We have come from Allah and to Allah is our return. So the return is there, and that is to meet God. So liqa'ullah. So this journey is called liqa'ullah. That is, we are working on liqa'ullah, meeting God. So if we want to meet God, how do we meet God? Just like what we are now? Or some changes need to be brought into us, that we are going to meet someone. An ordinary person, if you want to go and meet, so much of a preparation is there. We get ready in a way that he is not offended. We get ready in a way that we take what we need to take, things that are required, the tools, the gadgets, the provisions, the bags, to be there on point at the right time, etc. Now we're going to meet God, and to meet God also there are certain requirements and there are certain provisions that are required. Inna ila rabbika ruj'a. That is, indeed the return is towards God. So this is that liqa'ullah. Inna ila rabbika ruj'a. Towards your Lord is your return, is the return. Or another ayah in Quran, in Surah Al-Inshiqaq, states that Ya ayyuhal insan innaka kadihun ila rabbika kadhan famulaqih. That is, O man, you are struggling, you are laboring towards your Lord vigorously, laboriously, and you will encounter Him. So someone who will encounter God, he has to be careful what he is doing, what he is taking, what he is, and to which path he is embarking on. Now this Lord, or this God who I believe in, رَفَعَ السَّمَاوَاتِ بِغَيْرِ عَمَدٍ تَرَوْنَهَا, has created the skies without any pillars resting on them. يُفَصِّلُ الْآيَاتِ لَعَلَّكُمْ بِلِقَاءِ رَبِّكُمْ يُوقِنُونَ. And He has explained to you all the signs. Every sign is evident before you, clear before you. Why is all of that? لَعَلَّكُمْ بِلِقَاءِ رَبِّكُمْ تُوقِنُونَ. So that you have that certainty and yaqeen that you will be meeting God. So in all of this creation of Allah, there is in all of these signs, they should lead us towards that meeting point, meeting the Almighty Allah. Now when you look into the wisdom behind the ahkam, for example, the day of Eid, or the sajdas that you perform, or when you participate in funeral services, in the janazas of mu'mineen. So here, that what Ma'asumeen have taught us is that all the time, constantly, it should remind you towards the liqa'ullah, meeting of Allah. You've come to say your Eid prayers. It's a happy occasion. Imam says that Eid prayers, when you come out of your house, it should be like you've come out of your graves. Dressed in white, you are also dressed in white on the day of Eid. You've come to the musalla to say your prayers. You've come to the resurrection or the mahshar to give an account. You've said your prayers, you've greeted everyone, you've met everyone, now you are returning home. Imam says you've given an account, you've greeted everyone, you're going back to the heaven. So that liqa'ullah, the concept of the hereafter life that is constantly reminded by the Ma'soom. Or the same thing in the Jummah prayers, the same thing when you are offering your prayers. Someone says, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, why 2 sajdas? Says the first sajda when you bow down and when you rise. In your sajda, you say, Minha khalaqnakum, God, you've created me with this dirt that I have performed sajda on. And then when you rise from the sajda, means that you have been created from that dirt and you've given this life on this planet Earth. Your second sajda means fiha nu'idukum, that you will be returned to that dirt. And then when you rise from the second sajda, that is, you will be raised to present and to give an account. So here how beautifully Imam all the time they bring and they twist that topic to such and bring it to liqa'ullah. Or for example, there says that when you participate in a funeral and you are offering prayers there, assume that it is you in the coffin and prayers are being recited on you. So again, it's that same concept of liqa'ullah, that meeting Allah has to be strengthened, has to be mentioned at all times in our life, that sooner or later we have to depart. And when we are leaving here, there has to be something with us. And what is that? It says, فَتَزَوَّدُوا. فَتَزَوَّدُوا means take provisions. Tazawwadu, it's from Zad. Zadu Rahila, that we use Zad in Farsi and Urdu as well. Zad means the tushe or the provisions, the food that you require for your journey. فَتَزَوَّدُوا, you take those provisions فِي أَيَّامِ الْفَنَاءِ, that is in this life that you are living in, which is a life which will perish, fana. And confronting this fana, you have a life which is baqa, that is, which will remain. So ad-dunya we are in, which is fani, and akhirah we are heading to, which is baqi. So for that eternal life, which is forever, we need provisions that we need to get and acquire from this temporary and short-lived life, which is fani. Imam in Nahj Balagha says, فَتَزَوَّدُوا فِي أَيَّامِ الْفَنَاءِ لِأَيَّامِ الْبَقَاءِ. That's from this life which is perishable. You seek the provisions for that life which is going to be permanent and eternal. Now, Quran also has a similar ayah. Quran says, فَتَزَوَّدُوا إِنَّ خَيْرَ الزَّادِ التَّقْوَى. Yeah, فَتَزَوَّدُوا, yani get those provisions. Inna khayra zad, the best of provisions is taqwa, being God-wary. Now, furthermore, Amir al-Mu'mineen in Nahj al-Balagha, in another phrase, he says that Inna dunya lam tukhlaq lakum daru maqamin. This dunya hasn't been created for you to remain. Daru maqam means for you to be for it to be a station for you. Bal خُلِقَتْ لَكُمْ مَجَازًا, it has been created like a transfer, like a temporary place. لِتَزَوَّدُوا مِنْهَا الْأَعْمَالِ, so that you acquire the provisions you need from this dunya, and that is in the form of actions and a'mal, and you need those actions and a'mal إِلَى دَارِ الْقَرَارِ, for that house which is going to be permanent, and that permanent abode of yours you need. So Quran doesn't recognize this dunya as dar. Dar in Arabic means house, abode, home. It doesn't recognize. In Quran or in these statements of Ma'asumeen, wherever you see Akhirah has been mentioned, Akhirah is dar. Dar is house. This is not dar. This is a transit lounge, a short term. For a short term, we are here and we have to leave. So, for this path that is liqa'ullah, again, Siratul Aziz al Hamid that we have in Quran, Sirat means that path, that mighty path, that praised mighty path, Siratul Aziz al Hamid. And that is that meeting towards the Almighty God. We are moving towards that direction. And Quran has clearly mentioned, says, Kitabun anzalnahu ilayka, this book we have revealed unto you, لِتُخْرِجَ النَّاسِ مِنَ الظُّلُمَاتِ إِلَى النُّورِ, so that mankind are taken out from darkness to light. بِإِذْنِ رَبِّهِمْ إِلَى صِرَاطِ الْعَزِيزِ الْحَمِيدِ, by the command of the Lord to the path of the Almighty, the Laudable, the Praised, the Hamid. So, this journey is towards Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. For that journey, we need help. That journey, the destination is all nur, is all light. And the place where we are, it's dunya daniyya, it's low, it's dark. And for that enlightened eternal abode, we need sustenance and we need provisions that have to be sought from this here. And that path is called liqa'ullah. And this journey that we are, it's called suluk. The person who is on this journey is called salik. So this suluk, that's a slow process. You and me, they have to be on that suluk. Things that have to be observed, things that are haram should be removed. Even makruh and mustahabbat, importance has to be given to them. Then slowly, gradually, a person, he comes to his destination and becomes a better person. Now when we look into the seerah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the beauty of the invitation of Rasulullah, it wasn't by force, never. And Islam, it never spread by the sword, never. It was by the akhlaq of Rasulullah, by the seerah and the akhlaq of Amirul Mu'mineen. All these the slavery that is being abolished, they say that it was abolished by this guy here. No. Slavery was abolished by Islam. Islam had all these ahkam. Says if someone does wrong, these many slaves to be freed. If someone intentionally breaks his fast in the month of Ramadan, per fast 60 slaves be freed. If someone harms and hurts someone and he damages him or inflicts some kind of a wound, that many slaves be freed. So it's Islam that is always after and it was this goodness, the akhlaq of Islam that brought everyone closer to Islam. فَبِمَا رَحْمَةٍ مِنَّا, that was the special mercy of Allah upon Rasulullah. لِنْتَ لَهُمْ, that you were so soft and you were so humble towards people. Allah says, وَلَوْ كُنْتَ فَضًّا غَلِيظَ الْقَلْبِ, if you were rough and hard-hearted, and then you would see that how people would have dispersed from you. That was the akhlaq of Rasulullah that attracted people towards Islam, towards Allah, towards His deen. Now, when we look into Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his seerah, his akhlaq, when he was traveling for Hajj. Now the group was being prepared, and Rasulullah says that yes, all those people who are willing to come on this journey to go to Hajj, join us. There is a condition and the criteria of who can join this group. Says man kana sayyi al-khulq wal-jiwar fala yashabna. Those who are ill-mannered and those who are bad towards their neighbors, they cannot be part of this Hajj group of mine. Rasulullah's criteria in taking people to Hajj. Now, again, we see in the statements of Rasulullah, says, alaykum bi husn al-khulq, that is, you have to be well-mannered. Someone who is well-mannered, fil jannati la muhalata, he is in the heaven definitely. That good character and akhlaq of his will take him into the heaven. وَإِيَّاكُمْ وَسُوءَ الْخَلْقِ فَإِنَّ السَّيِّئَ الْخُلْقِ فِي النَّارِ لَا مَحَالَةَ. That upon you be that you be distant and away from those who are ill-mannered, and you also keep away from being ill-mannered, because someone who is ill-mannered is in the hell, is in the fire right now. Definitely he is in the fire now. And this also is understood that someone who is short-tempered, someone who is angry, or someone who is always negative, now you see that he has created something around himself, that fire of the hell, which is for the future, he has already availed it by his character. So by being good, definitely you are in the heaven, and right now you are in the heaven. And by being bad or ill-mannered and the akhlaq of Rasulullah not observed, that person is in the hell, and it is right now. Su'ul khulq sayyi'atun la yanfa'u ma'aha kasratul hasanat. Someone who is ill-mannered, says that is an illness, a disease, that all the good that you would be doing with that ill-mannered and the position of that person, the good also that he would do him no good. La yanfa'u ma'aha kasratul hasanat. No matter how much of a good he does, it will not benefit him. Just like having a hardware with no software on it, and no matter what you want to apply and install on it, it will never install, because the bases are lacking. So for that basis to be strong, the akhlaq has to be there. If that akhlaq is there, with that akhlaq, all the good also that will be done will be rewarded, will be attached to it. Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala also says the same, Innal abrara lafi na'im wa innal fujjara lafi jahim. Abrar, they are in the heavens, they are blessed, and they will be provided by Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. So we talked about this path ahead, and which is suluk, and which is liqa'ullah. And it's the day of Abu Abdullah al-Husayn alayhi salam, and he is Sayyid al-Shuhada, the chief of all martyrs. And the best way to meet Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala is by Shahadah. That is sacrificing oneself in the path of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. And that also is not granted to anyone, to everyone, no. That is, we have to avail that desire in us, we have to want that sincerely, we have to ask Allah to bless and bestow, and only then will that shahadat will be given. Now many a times people, they say that why wasn't Muhammad bin Hanafiya, Imam Husayn's brother, in Karbala? Why wasn't Hazrat Zainab's husband Abdullah bin Ja'far present in Karbala? And all these types of questions. We don't want to say anything about these great personalities. That manifest of Shuhada, it's special, written and signed and sealed and closed by Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. That also depending on the criteria and the desire and want of those who want to be among the Shuhada. The best and the highest of ranks is the rank of a Shaheed. Ashraful Qatl, Qatl al-Shaheed, the best of deaths, it's the dying of a Shaheed. And the Shuhada, Amir al-Mu'mineen says that وَالَّذِي نَفْسُ ابْنُ أَبِي طَالِبْ بِيَدِهِ لَأَلْفَ ضَرْبَةٍ بِالسَّيْفِ أَهْوَنُ عَلَيَّ مِنْ مَيْتٍ عَلَى فِرَاشٍ. Says by him in whose hands is Ali ibn Abi Talib's soul, 1,000 hittings with a sword, says that is much easier for me to bear than not being killed in the way of Allah as a shaheed and dying in the bed. So shahadat, it's that desire that everyone has, and not to everyone it is given as well. I was just looking into the biographies of the living Shuhada today, and came across this Shaheed Zind. He was telling his story. Now this is from about 38 years ago, and it was in the Sacred Defense when Saddam had attacked Iran. Now this young man at that time, he says, I was 17, 18 years old, and my desire was to be a Shaheed, to die in the way of Allah. Says, I always prayed, I always wanted, I always desired that Allah give me a death of a Shaheed. Says, in all du'as I had that, and I was also I had to go to the battlefront to fight, And then we went to Kurdistan. And then he says that my commander, he says that we've been attacked from that side and we want you to go to the barracks right now with a few other soldiers, and you have to defend and take control of that trench. He says that we came there, we sat there in the trench, and all of us were shot, including me. 17, 18 wounds were there on me. He says that that morning prior to this incident, I saw in my dreams one of the Shuhada, Saeed his name. He said to me, pack up, write your will, and tonight, very soon you will be joining us. He says that, then who says that, how do you know? How do you say that? He says, I've been told to inform you to pack up, to write your will, and soon you will be joining us. Says, a basharat, a glad tiding was given to me. But accepting that and digesting it, it wasn't so easy. So I started shaking. I shook so much. I said to God after my Fajr prayers that I did ask for Shahadat. But you don't need to be so serious and take that request seriously from me. So many wishes and du'as I had throughout my life, and so many of them you did not accept. This also can be one of them. He says the reason why I said that to Allah is because of the lack of ma'rifah of the shahadat and a shaheed. I did not have that much of it was a desire I had, not knowing what a shaheed is and who a shaheed is and what a rank of shahadat it is. Says, I changed my mind and I said to God to reverse that dua of mine. And then we were asked by the commander to go to the trench, and then all of us were shot, including me. There were 17, 18 gunshots on me, and I also lay like a dead body, but I wasn't dead. He says, my eyes were closed, I was supplicating with all that zikr continuously, and I see that the Ba'asis, the Saddamis, they came to us, and then all my fellow Shuhada soldiers who were already shaheed and killed, they shot them again to be satisfied and confirm their death, and likewise they shot on me a bullet which went just close to my heart, past my heart. He says, I wasn't dead yet. And then they were pounding and crushing and walking over me and my head, and I could feel the pain of all the wounds on me and the pain of how they were treating and walking on us. Says they left, and then when our people, they came and they found out that we have all been killed, a van was brought and the bodies were laid in the van. My body was down below and the bodies of the Shuhada above me, 2-3 bodies above. And I could hear everyone saying that take them to the cold storage, to the mortuary. And I was in that van, and the road and the route also was very difficult. Says as the van was moving with all those wounds on me and these heavy bodies of Shuhada on me, and every movement of the car, it just intensified and increased the pain I was in. Says we came to the destination, and there in the destination they said there's no cold storage here, so we can't take the bodies. So take them to another city. They took them to another place, and there was a cold storage. Says I was pleading to God that God, I'm alive and they want to put me in the cold storage, do something. Says that point I saw that I've been taken to the skies, high up in the skies, and I could see the Shuhada, the designations. Says the place was such beautiful, the atmosphere, it's beyond whatever you can see in this world. And I see someone come to me, very beautiful, extremely beautiful, never seen such beauty in this world, and all the charm and beauty that you can see in this world, it's not even a fingertip to what I saw. That was Abu Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam, and he was greeting, welcoming the Shuhada, and when I came ahead, he said, you are not among the Shuhada. He says, but I'm here now, you can accept me. He says, you changed your mind. You changed your mind, you did not want Shahadat, so that was taken back. It was reversed. He said, but I'm here already, you can accept me. He says, no, you have to go back. He says, I saw my designation where my place was, the place of all of my fellow shuhada. I saw them, the ranks, the stations, what they were, and now back on this earth. Says, when they were putting me back in the cold storage, I was praying that Allah do something that they don't put me in the cold storage. I sought refuge in Imam al-Asr alayhi salatu wassalam. I asked him for help. He says that very moment I feel that there's something came by my face and I could open my eyes. That pain that was in me, I couldn't feel that pain anymore. Says, I opened my eyes. The moment I saw that those who were taking the bodies out of that van, and my eyes opened and I wanted to speak, they got scared. They panicked. They threw this stretcher on the floor. Says, in addition to all the pains I had, another pain, and that is that stretcher dropping to the ground. Says, they came and they said, this Shaheed is alive. When this news spread in the hospital and that cold storage, says, everyone came to us, says, it is Mubarak, whatever he is wearing, that was taken as tabarruk. Now, the doctors in the hospital, they said that bring him here, and they started operating. He says that I could speak to the doctor, and I said to him, you operate, and if you do see me die, don't put me in the cold storage. I am not destined to die, so don't put me in the cold storage. Says that for a few hours they removed all those bullets, and they could see that his blood pressure is dropping and dropping, and it was almost gone. And they said, nothing, he's dead, declared, take him to the morgue. He says, the moment he was put in the cold storage, one of his other friends, who was very close to him, he says, he came to me. He put his face on my face. He cried so much that his tears, they fell on my face. And then when his ears were close to my mouth, he started shouting that he isn't dead, he is alive. Again, take him back to the operation theater. He says, when I regained my consciousness amidst the operation, he says, I said to the doctors, why did you put me in the cold storage? Did I not tell you? I am not destined to die. Don't put me in the cold storage, leave me out here. He says, now how do you say that and such strongly? He says, that is what Abu Abdullah al-Hussein has said, that I will live and I have to live. So when he has said so, the death is not confirmed on me yet. That is Abu Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam. The best of the ranks is the rank of Shahadat. He is the Sayyid al-Shuhada. And this incident that I just mentioned, this living Shaheed is still alive in his mid-50s now. And all these are great personalities who've seen the reality, who've seen what is behind the scenes, who know what is this path, this liqa'ullah. And all these incidents also that you see and you hear, that someone who has come to the brink of collapse, towards departure and leaving this world, and that life is given back to him, means something major has to be done by that person. For that reason, Allah gives him that life back. Many evidences can be presented here. One of them is the founder of the Hawza Ilmiya Qom Marhum Ayatollah al-Uzma Abdul Karim Hairi, Ayatollah al-Uzma Khamenei, also the same. When he was also attacked, he says, I could see that I'm leaving and I'm ascending, but then suddenly that life was given back to me. So when Allah does that, means there is something major that is required from this person to be done, and that life is returned. Now in all of these cases and incidents, it is the mediator is Abu Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salatu wassalam, that he mediates that life, even in all these dead ends, he who can reverse, it's Abu Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam. May Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala on this night of Sayyid al-Shuhada count us among the best of servants of Sayyid al-Shuhada alayhi salam. This field that we have all embarked on, Allah help us become better people, better servants of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam. Between us, Quran and Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam never ever come across a moment of separation in this dunya, barzakh or qiyamah. وسبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد وعجل فرجه.